The world of reality television has given us countless memorable moments, but few revelations have been as startling as what emerged from the filming of Special Forces. When podcaster Briana LaPaglia, better known as Chickenfry, sat down to discuss her experience on the show, she pulled back the curtain on something that Sister Wives viewers had long suspected, but never fully witnessed: Kody Brown's complete inability to function as a self-sufficient adult. This isn't just gossip or entertainment drama. What Briana described during her podcast appearance represents a disturbing pattern of behavior that speaks to deeper issues about narcissism, enabling, and what happens when someone spends decades insulated from accountability. Her accounts paint a picture of a man so disconnected from basic social norms and personal responsibility that fellow contestants questioned whether something was medically wrong with him. Let's break down exactly what happened during that filming period, what it reveals about Kody as a person, and why this matters beyond just reality TV drama. When Briana revealed that she had to directly confront Kody Brown about his body odor, it sent shockwaves through the Sister Wives community. But the full scope of the situation is far worse than a simple forgotten stick of deodorant. This wasn't a one-time oversight or an early morning rush to set. This was a sustained pattern of neglect that affected everyone around him. According to Briana's account, Kody wasn't just skipping deodorant, he wasn't showering, he wasn't bathing. He was going through physically demanding challenges, sweating profusely in difficult conditions, and then simply not cleaning himself. The accumulation of this neglect became unbearable for those forced to work alongside him. Think about the environment of Special Forces for a moment. This isn't a comfortable studio setting. Contestants are pushed to their physical and mental limits. They're sweating, getting dirty, enduring grueling tasks in challenging conditions. Under these circumstances, most people would be hyper-aware of their hygiene, taking extra care to stay clean out of respect for their teammates and the close quarters they're sharing. But Kody apparently operated under different rules. Or perhaps more accurately, he believed no rules applied to him at all. Briana found herself in the unfortunate position of being paired with Kody for nearly every challenge, every car ride, every bunking situation after another contestant departed. She couldn't escape. She was stuck breathing the same air, working in close physical proximity, unable to avoid the reality of what happens when someone abandons basic personal care. The fact that Briana felt compelled to address this directly tells us how severe the situation had become. You don't tell someone they smell unless it has reached a level that's genuinely affecting everyone around them. You don't have that conversation unless you've exhausted all other options, and the situation has become truly unbearable. What makes this even more troubling is that Kody had excuses. He tried to justify his lack of hygiene. Not legitimate medical reasons or temporary circumstances beyond his control, just circular logic that made sense only to him. The other contestants weren't buying it, and neither should anyone else. This raises a fundamental question. What kind of person behaves this way? What mindset allows someone to subject others to their unwashed presence and think it's acceptable? The hygiene issues were just one symptom of a much larger pattern of dysfunctional behavior. Briana's observations extended far beyond Kody's refusal to maintain basic cleanliness. She witnessed and documented a range of behaviors that suggested someone profoundly disconnected from normal social functioning. Kody talked constantly, not in a conversational way, not in meaningful exchanges with others, but in endless monologues that seemed to serve no purpose other than filling the air with his own voice. He didn't pause for responses, he didn't read social cues that people wanted him to stop. He didn't register the discomfort and desperation of those trying to extract themselves from his verbal assaults. He called fellow contestants by the wrong names repeatedly. Not occasional slip-ups in moments of stress or confusion, but consistent, ongoing misidentification. NFL player Randall Cobb was called by the wrong name throughout the entire filming period. The level of disrespect and self-absorption required to never bother learning or remembering someone's actual name is staggering. Other contestants developed strategies to deal with the Kody problem, and those strategies mainly involved avoidance. Randall Cobb actively stayed away from Kody, wanting nothing to do with him. A professional athlete who had endured the physical and mental grind of the NFL couldn't tolerate being around this reality TV personality. That speaks volumes. The combination was lethal. Someone who smelled terrible, called people by wrong names, and wouldn't stop talking at them. Imagine trying to focus on already brutal physical and mental challenges while managing the additional burden of a teammate who seems fundamentally incapable of basic human interaction. What makes Briana's account particularly interesting is her initial attempt to find a charitable explanation for what she was witnessing. She wondered if Kody might have a disability, if there might be something neurological or developmental happening that would explain his complete absence of social skills and self-care. This wasn't cruelty on her part. It was compassion. She was genuinely trying to make sense of behavior so far outside the bounds of normal that it seemed like something must be medically wrong. Because how else do you explain a grown man who can't manage basic hygiene, can't remember people's names, can't read a single social cue, and talks endlessly without awareness of his impact on others? These aren't just personality quirks. These represent fundamental disconnections from normal human functioning. And Briana wasn't alone in this thought process. Multiple people on set went through the same questioning. Could someone really be this oblivious, this incapable of self-awareness and basic courtesy without some kind of cognitive issue being involved? But as filming continued and Briana spent more time observing Kody, a different picture emerged. This wasn't disability. This wasn't cognitive impairment. This was something potentially more disturbing. Kody was capable of understanding social norms. He just didn't care. He was capable of basic self-care. He just chose not to engage in it. The behavior wasn't something he couldn't control. It was something he wouldn't control. That realization was almost more disturbing than the original theory, because if Kody had a legitimate medical explanation, there would be grace in that, some understanding. But this was pure choice. This was a man so disconnected from reality, so inflated by decades of being treated like he was special, that he genuinely believed normal rules didn't apply to him. Briana eventually landed on a different assessment. Kody had a bunch of screws loose. Not special needs, not disability, just someone whose grip on appropriate behavior had become so tenuous that even casual observers were left baffled and uncomfortable. To understand what happened to Kody on Special Forces, we need to examine the psychological patterns that experts have documented in aging narcissists. Because what we witnessed wasn't random dysfunction. It was the predictable outcome of decades of unchecked narcissistic behavior finally collapsing under its own weight. For over 30 years, Kody Brown was the center of his own universe. 4 women revolved around him, competing for his attention, his time, his approval. He could do no wrong because these women had been conditioned to explain away every failure, every moment of selfishness, every act of neglect. They told him he was an amazing father when he was barely present. They told him he was a hard worker when he contributed almost nothing financially. They told him he was trustworthy when he was systematically deceiving all of them. That kind of constant validation, that complete absence of accountability, does something to a person's brain. It creates a disconnect from reality that gets worse over time, not better. Kody genuinely believed he was exceptional because the women in his life spent decades reinforcing that delusion. They worshipped him. They competed for scraps of his attention. They made him feel like royalty when he was barely functioning as a decent human being. Here's what happens when that bubble starts to pop. When those women start leaving, when the outside world starts giving feedback that contradicts the carefully constructed fantasy. Narcissists don't recalibrate. They don't suddenly gain self-awareness and think maybe they need to change. They double down. They become more erratic, more defensive, more disconnected from any version of reality that doesn't center them as the hero. Experts who study malignant narcissism discuss this pattern extensively. As narcissists age and face more challenges to their inflated self-image, they fracture. The mask slips more frequently. The behavior becomes increasingly bizarre because they're desperately trying to maintain a worldview that no longer matches their circumstances. Kody is dealing with 3 divorces, with children who won't speak to him, with a public that increasingly sees through his manipulation. That's devastating feedback for someone whose entire identity is built on being adored and admired. So instead of reflecting and growing, Kody's becoming more extreme, more erratic, more incapable of basic functioning. The hygiene issues, the social awkwardness, the inability to remember names or read rooms. These aren't new personality traits. They're the result of decades of unchecked narcissism finally collapsing under its own weight. One of the most revealing aspects of the Special Forces situation is how quickly Briana found herself managing Kody. She didn't volunteer for this role. She didn't want it. But someone had to do it because Kody, left to his own devices, is apparently incapable of basic self-care and social awareness. This pattern reveals something crucial about Kody's entire life. He has never been able to function without women managing every aspect of his existence. Not just emotional support or partnership, but actual basic life management that most adults handle independently. For 30 years, he had 4 wives covering different aspects of his dysfunction. Between all of them, they created a system where Kody could maintain the illusion of being a functional patriarch while actually contributing almost nothing. They reminded him about his children's birthdays. They managed schedules so he'd show up where he needed to be. They handled conflicts and smoothed over his mistakes. They maintained households while he wandered between them like some kind of monarch making royal visits. Without that support system, Kody falls apart, and we saw that clearly during Special Forces. Within days of being in an environment where he didn't have his wives managing him, Briana had to step into that role. She was doing what she called gentle parenting with a grown man, telling him basic things like wear deodorant and be aware of social cues. She didn't sign up for that job. Nobody on that show expected to have to parent Kody Brown, but someone had to do it because left to his own devices, Kody is apparently incapable of maintaining the baseline of acceptable human functioning. He needs a woman to tell him to shower. He needs someone to monitor his behavior and rein him in when he gets too erratic. He needs constant management just to exist as a somewhat acceptable member of society. That's not partnership. That's not what healthy relationships look like. That's a man who has never developed the skills necessary to exist as an independent adult because he's always had women doing that work for him. While Kody was busy embarrassing himself on Special Forces, his remaining wife, Robyn, was apparently watching from home and experiencing a reaction that reveals just as much about their dysfunctional dynamic as Kody's behavior does. According to Briana's account, Robyn didn't attend press events for the show because she allegedly claimed she would hurt or even harm Briana. Kody reportedly told fellow contestants that Robyn couldn't come to these events because of her violent intentions toward the young podcaster. The absurdity of this scenario is almost impressive. Robyn Brown, a woman who avoids confrontation consistently, who cries and plays victim whenever anyone challenges her, supposedly ready to commit violence over a woman she'd never even met. The same Robyn who retreats into tears and victimhood at the first sign of conflict, suddenly transforming into someone ready for physical confrontation. It doesn't track. Robyn's weapon of choice has always been manipulation and tears, not physical aggression. But here's what makes this revealing. Briana had never met Robyn, never spoke to her, never said anything about her publicly before this incident. So what justified this level of rage toward a stranger? The answer is painfully obvious. Jealousy. A young, attractive woman spent weeks in close proximity to her husband, and Robyn couldn't handle it. Never mind that Briana wasn't remotely interested in Kody. Never mind that the entire experience left Briana questioning Kody's mental stability. None of that mattered to Robyn. But the jealousy runs deeper than just territorial possessiveness. Robyn has positioned herself for years as the only person who truly understands Kody. She's made herself his handler, his manager, the one person capable of guiding him through life, because apparently Kody can't function without constant female supervision. Then along comes Briana, doing exactly that job. Briana spent weeks keeping Kody in check, motivating him, managing him, telling him when he needed basic hygiene, essentially parenting this grown man. She stepped into Robyn's role without even trying, without even wanting to. She did it because someone had to. That's the real threat. Not that Briana might steal Kody romantically, but that Briana proved Robyn isn't special. The job Robyn's been doing for years, the role she's built her entire existence around, isn't unique. Any woman with basic common sense can manage Kody Brown, and Briana wasn't even particularly nice about it. She didn't coddle Kody, she didn't treat him like he deserved devotion, she just told him what needed to be said. And somehow Kody survived that level of directness. That has to sting for Robyn, who performs constant emotional labor to keep Kody somewhat functional while simultaneously acting like he's a prize worth fighting for. Briana just treated him like what he is, a difficult man who needs to be told basic things, and it worked fine. We have to ask ourselves, did Robyn actually say she wanted to hurt Briana? Or is this just another example of Kody manipulating the narrative, pitting women against each other while positioning himself as the prize everyone's fighting over? Kody has a documented history of using Robyn as a shield. He blames her for things he wants to do anyway. He attributes feelings to her that conveniently align with his own desires. He spent years telling his other wives that Robyn wouldn't allow certain things or that Robyn felt uncomfortable with situations, when really it was often just Kody's own preferences dressed up in Robyn's supposed concerns. So when Kody tells fellow contestants that Robyn can't attend press events because she'd hurt Briana, we need to consider the source. This is a man who lies constantly, who rewrites history in real time, who can't keep his own story straight from one conversation to the next. Maybe Robyn did say something in the heat of jealousy. Or maybe Kody completely fabricated or inflated the whole thing because it served his purposes. It lets him explain Robyn's absence without admitting she probably just didn't want to deal with the logistics. It creates drama between women, which Kody has always enjoyed, and it positions him as desirable enough that women are ready to fight over him. Because let's be honest, Kody loves this narrative. He loves the idea that Robyn is so possessive that she can't handle other women being near him. It feeds his ego. It makes him feel like he's still the prize that multiple women are competing for, even though 3 of his 4 wives have left him. Kody has always been skilled at weaponizing Robyn against anyone who challenges him. He used her against Mary, against Janelle, against Christine. He'd create situations where Robyn was positioned as the obstacle, the one with hurt feelings, the one who needed protection. This situation with Briana fits that exact pattern. The truth is probably much simpler and less dramatic. Robyn didn't attend because she had responsibilities at home and traveling for press events wasn't worth the hassle. But that explanation doesn't feed Kody's ego or create the kind of drama he thrives on. What makes Briana's involvement in this story genuinely important is that she accomplished something Kody's own adult children have never managed to do publicly. She held him accountable. She called out his treatment of women, his bizarre behavior, his hygiene failures, his complete inability to function like a decent human being. And she did it without apology, without softening it, without making excuses for him. Kody has children in their 20s and 30s. He has kids who've watched him neglect and emotionally abuse their mothers for years. And while some have privately distanced themselves, while some have stopped speaking to him entirely, none have publicly called him out the way Briana did. She had no familial obligation to protect him. No complicated history making, her hesitant to speak the truth. She just said what needed to be said. And the Sister Wives community has absolutely celebrated her for it. Because finally, someone with a platform looked at Kody Brown and said out loud what everyone's been thinking. He's not misunderstood. He's not going through a difficult time. He's not a victim of circumstances or editing. He's a dysfunctional man who treats women terribly and has been getting away with it for far too long. After spending weeks with Kody, after trying to figure him out, after initially wondering if he had a disability that would explain his behavior, Briana landed on this conclusion. He has a bunch of screws loose, and she doesn't want to touch it anymore. That assessment is more damning than any elaborate criticism could be. Briana tried. She gave Kody the benefit of the doubt. She was kind to him during filming when others actively avoided him. She performed emotional labor trying to understand what was happening with this man. And ultimately, she walked away thinking he's just too broken, too dysfunctional, too exhausting to even comment on further. Taking a step back, what emerges from this entire situation is a case study in what happens when someone spends decades insulated from consequences and surrounded by enablers. The Sister Wives spent years enabling Kody's helplessness. They created a system where he never had to develop basic life skills or emotional intelligence. They managed his relationships with his children. They handled his responsibilities. They covered for his failures. And they did all of this while telling him what an exceptional man he was. This created a monster who genuinely believes he's special when really he's just deeply dependent on female caretaking to survive. He's like a man-child who never had to grow up because women were always there to handle the adult responsibilities for him. Now he's down to just Robyn, which means she's shouldering the entire burden of keeping Kody somewhat functional. No wonder she felt threatened by Briana. For those weeks of filming, Briana was doing Robyn's exhausting, thankless job. And she made it look manageable, which probably made Robyn realize just how much labor she's been putting into a man who will never actually be capable of functioning independently. The irony is that Kody has spent his entire adult life preaching about plural marriage and how it's a superior family structure. But what it really provided him was a system where he could remain perpetually immature, perpetually dependent, perpetually unaccountable. Each wife covered different aspects of adult responsibility, which meant Kody never had to develop competence in any of them. The Special Forces experience inadvertently revealed truths about Kody's relationships that decades of Sister Wives episodes only hinted at. We've seen him interact with his wives on camera, always with the ability to control the narrative, always with editing that could make him look better than reality. But on Special Forces, he was exposed. No wives to manage him, no ability to control how his behavior was perceived, no editing that could hide the reality of who he is when left to function independently. And what we learned is devastating. Kody Brown cannot function as an independent adult. He requires constant female management just to maintain basic hygiene and social appropriateness. He has no self-awareness about how his behavior affects others. He doesn't understand reciprocity or consideration or the fundamental give and take that makes human relationships work. This explains so much about why his marriages failed. It wasn't just that he had multiple wives and couldn't manage the logistics. It's that he's fundamentally incapable of being a true partner to anyone. He requires caretakers, not wives. He needs managers, not companions. Christine, Janelle, and Mary didn't leave because plural marriage is inherently flawed. They left because being married to Kody Brown means signing up to be his mother, not his partner. And eventually, they got tired of that thankless job. Robyn is the only one left because she's still invested in the illusion. She's built her entire identity around being the woman who won Kody, who understands him, who can manage him when no one else could. She's trapped by that investment now, unable to admit that what she won isn't actually a prize. The public response to Briana's revelations has been overwhelmingly supportive of her and critical of Kody. People aren't surprised by what she revealed, they're validated, because everything she described confirmed what Sister Wives viewers have suspected for years. Kody has always shown signs of narcissism, of entitlement, of an inability to empathize with others. But the show's editing and the wives' constant defense of him created enough ambiguity that some viewers gave him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe he wasn't as bad as he seemed. Maybe the editing was unfair. Maybe the wives were exaggerating their complaints. Briana's account removes all that ambiguity. She has no reason to lie about Kody. She has no investment in the Sister Wives drama. She's an outside observer who spent significant time with him in challenging conditions and came away with the same conclusions his ex-wives eventually reached. This man is profoundly dysfunctional. The celebration of Briana's honesty by the Sister Wives community speaks to years of frustration. Viewers have watched Kody mistreat his wives and children for over a decade. They've seen him lie, manipulate, neglect, and emotionally abuse the people who were supposed to be his family. And they've watched him face minimal consequences for any of it. Having someone with no connection to the family dynamic call him out publicly feels like justice. It feels like validation for everyone who's been saying for years that Kody is the problem. Not plural marriage, not the logistics, not the wives, just Kody and his complete inability to function as a decent human being. What happened on Special Forces wasn't just reality TV drama. It was the complete unmasking of a man who has spent decades hiding behind carefully constructed narratives and enablers who covered for his dysfunction. Briana didn't set out to expose Kody Brown. She just experienced him as he actually is when he doesn't have wives managing every aspect of his existence. And what she found was disturbing enough that she felt compelled to speak publicly about it. The hygiene issues, the social dysfunction, the complete lack of self-awareness, these aren't new developments. They're the reality that's always existed beneath the surface. The difference is that now we have an outside witness, with no reason to protect Kody, confirming what his behavior looks like when he can't control the narrative. This should be a wake-up call for Kody, but it probably won't be. Narcissists don't respond to criticism with self-reflection. They respond with defensiveness, with victim narratives, with attempts to discredit those who speak truth about them. Robyn still hasn't publicly responded, though media outlets have reached out for comment. Will she break her silence? Will she try to defend Kody or justify her alleged reactions to Briana? Or will she continue hiding behind Kody, letting him speak for her, maintaining the fiction that she's the protective wife, defending her territory? And Kody himself has remained relatively quiet, which is unusual for someone who typically cannot resist defending himself publicly. Perhaps even he recognizes that there's no good response to what Briana revealed. How do you defend not showering? How do you justify subjecting teammates to your body odor? How do you explain away behavior so bizarre that strangers wondered if you had a cognitive disability? The fallout from special forces is far from over. This isn't just entertainment gossip, it's a case study in what happens when enablement, narcissism, and lack of accountability combine over decades. It's a cautionary tale about the importance of holding people responsible for their behavior, regardless of their status or the narratives they've constructed about themselves. Briana Chickenfry did something important when she spoke publicly about her experience with Kody Brown. She removed the ambiguity. She confirmed what many suspected. And she demonstrated that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is tell someone the truth, even when that truth is uncomfortable. The emperor has no clothes. And thanks to Briana, everyone can see it now. If you found this analysis eye-opening, make sure you're subscribed to Soul Sister Wives. We're diving deep into all the Sister Wives drama, breaking down the latest developments, and giving you the honest analysis that this family deserves. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Kody will ever gain self-awareness? Will Robyn finally speak out about the Special Forces situation? What do you think will happen next in the Brown family saga? Like this video if you appreciate Briana for finally saying what needed to be said. And if you want more deep dives into the dysfunction, check out our other videos on the Soul Sister Wives channel. Thanks for watching, and remember, the truth always comes out eventually. See you in the next video.